It's DSPyro, aka Django Jr. I got some news recently. I think about last week that's gonna get me pretty hyped for next year, 2018, probably early 2019, most likely. It's gonna be about Devil May Cry 5. So there was a recent link. To be fair, none of it has actually been confirmed, but the rumors have been going on for a while, saying that there's gonna be Devil May Cry 5. First things first, Devil May Cry is definitely up there as one of my favorite games ever. The franchise itself, Dante is just one of those effortlessly cool characters. He's a product of his time, which is what, the early 2000s? And he came out at the right time. He's just popular. He's just so cool and badass. And even by today's standards of like what's cool and badass, he still stands the test of time. And the games as well, they got like a supporting cast like Virgil, his twin brother. He's literally become just as popular as Dante, probably even more so depending on who you speak to. Personally, I got into Devil May Cry 2. Originally, yes, I know it's like the worst one, but it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have gotten into it. It just blew my mind playing that. But it was the first one I played. I just picked it up randomly in a game store, and the cover looked cool, and the back of the case looked cool. I was like, sure, let me get this game. So without that, wouldn't be into Devil May Cry. I got Devil May Cry 3 after that, and the rest is history. If you play Devil May Cry 3, you know what I'm talking about. It's a badass game, one of the best things ever. I even actually like DMC Devil May Cry when it came out. Like, while I'm not happy with the redesign of Dante himself, if you just think about it as like an alternate dimension Dante, you can get past the aesthetics change and the lookout of the game itself. The story itself was actually pretty good, and the characters were interesting. The gameplay, to be honest, was actually pretty solid. Probably the best thing about the game, I did like the way the environment changed, and that it, not so much the destruction you had, but the way it looked. Some of it was a bit stupid. Well, not stupid, but like just different. And I personally, I liked it. Dante's character, not so much. The supporting cast they were good, but the strong points was probably Mundus when he wasn't doing really weird stuff. Like, his actual character was really cool. His reasoning behind what he was doing was very political, and I don't want such strong political tones in my Devil May Cry games. I just want to kill some demons and be good. But the story, like the history of Virgil and Dante, is pretty good. I really actually enjoyed that. Anyway, as for Devil May Cry 5, well, the team behind Devil May Cry 1 to 4, they're actually the ones that are actually doing this. So it's probably won't be anything like DMC Devil May Cry, but along the lines more of 1 to 4 itself. And this includes the team that was doing Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. So I've got high hopes, incredibly, for this game. And they've actually gone from using the numerical value to using the Roman value 5. So that leads me to believe that it's going to be a considerably different game. Not too different, but normally when you've got that kind of change between numerical or a subtitled game, there tends to be quite a difference in that you can see possibly visually or even the gameplay wise. And with the gameplay, it's apparently going to be a lot more streamlined within the combat in itself and within the environmental traverse and just general walking around. How streamlined, I don't know. That hasn't been released yet or anything like that. There's going to be styles again with that, which were introduced, as far as I know, in Devil May Cry 3, which had hints of what you could do in Devil May Cry 1 and 2. You've got Royal Guard, which is for defense. You can create some really interesting block situations that make some of your moves more powerful, which I was never good at anyway, but they've got it again. Well, ideally they have it. There's going to be styles. You've got Gunslinger, which is literally as it sounds. For every Devil Arm, which is effectively your guns, you've got different types of ways to use your gun. You can use them as like weird nunchucks. You've got specific type of charge shots, Raining Storm, which is when you're upside down and you're shooting guns from like the top, and weird like gun kata moves, which are really interesting, like shooting behind your back and underneath your arms, or some crazy stuff that you can do. You got Swordmaster, which literally is like gunslinger, but for your sword, you got different cool weapons, different moves, which will be interesting to see how they've implemented that. You've got Trickster, which is for mobility, moving around. You can teleport, you can do quick dashes, you can teleport behind the enemy, just in front of the enemy. There's different cool things that you can do with that, and you can create sweet looking combos as well. What else do you have on here? No, that's all the styles. There was a Quicksilver, I think it was called, that was in Devil May Cry 3, when you defeated a horse and you could slow down time, which is an interesting one. I wonder if they'll bring that back. They did that similarly with DMC Devil May Cry, but it was slightly different. As opposed to it being a double trigger, it was just a style in Devil May Cry 3 when you played as Virgil in the special edition one. One thing about the styles that apparently is going to be in Devil May Cry 5 is the styles will be shown by the enemies that react to it. Now, there's nothing been said if it's just going to be they'll speak differently relating to style, or you actually have to defeat them in a different manner with the styles that you've got. Like in Devil May Cry DMC, you had to use certain heavy attacks to defeat certain enemies, and then the light enemies, you can pretty much do everything, but just depends. Like if you want to do crowd control, if you just want to give the serious beatdown on one enemy. And with enemies as well, there's going to be more characters, enemies, on the screen. I doubt it's going to be anything like Dynasty Warriors, but there's going to be a lot more. And with this being a game made for the next generation, or the current generation, I guess you could say, it makes sense that they'd go in and actually have a bit more enemies on the screen so you could create more badass combos as you could do in previous games as well. Now, apparently there's going to be an open world vibe to this. I'd imagine it's something similar to Bayonetta, and when I've done my investigations, it's saying a lot of it will be similar in level design for that. How open the game will be hasn't been specified. I don't want it too open. I don't want to just have kind of a Grand Theft Auto feel. If it's somewhere like Bayonetta and various other games that are like you can walk around within that level, that's amazing. Don't give me a whole city for Devil May Cry. Don't turn it into Fallout 4 or Fable or something like that. Just like a whole city, but you can roam around within the levels, similar to how Devil May Cry 4 was, like a big open level, but you can like travel around. And I think Bayonetta was a very good balance of that. And I think some of the people that worked on 1 to 4 for Devil May Cry worked on Bayonetta as well. So one thing that has really interested me about this was a storyline leak that came out from a couple of weeks ago. Is that Virgil will be playable, or at least be involved in the storyline quite heavily. The cool thing about that is that Nero is making a comeback, and Nero comes from Devil May Cry 4, and I enjoyed that game quite a bit. Now, apparently, this was confirmed in an art book that I haven't been able to find anywhere, that Nero is actually Virgil's son. I've been thinking that the whole time throughout the game. There's lots of hints. Nero uses the Yamato, which is Virgil's weapon, at the end of it when you complete it, because Dante's been fighting Nero for quite some time in this story. He eventually says, you know what, instead of giving me the sword, I should keep the sword in the family, blah, 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 blah. So it's been hinted at that at least some sort of relation is between Dante, Virgil, and Nero, like if it's a third brother, or if it's Virgil's son, or possibly Dante's son, but no one's really said that because you see Dante growing throughout the franchise, and I believe the last game chronologically is Devil May Cry 2, when you rise off into Hell to defeat some of the demons in Hell itself, and there's no hint of a son or anything like that. Who's to say you don't know what's happening on off game, but still, there's nothing there. The large portion of it is related to Nero and Virgil being father and son. And when Nero uses his devil trigger, he has a right-handed demon behind him, like a demon shadow, and Virgil's right-handed, whereas Nero's actually left-handed. He does everything with his left hand up until he uses his devil trigger, and the fact is you can use Yamato relatively well. And that's always been that confirming like connection between them. There's definitely something there. So apparently there's this cutscene somewhere, like in the offices of like Capcom, that confirms their connection. So I can't wait to see that. That's definitely going to be interesting. There's been a couple other things to see what's going on with that story as well. Apparently, there's going to be 3 playable characters, which many of the things I found state it's going to be Dante and Nero, and that third one is most likely going to be Virgil, or a completely new character. Now, the only problem I have with, not even a problem, but like the interesting thing is Virgil apparently died at the end, or he went away for a long time. I'm not quite sure. He died at the end of Devil May Cry 3 when he goes into hell to fight Mundus, and he says like he'll do it just like his dad did for Sparta, like the Legend of Sparta and everything. But in Devil May Cry 1, which I believe is set after, well, no, it's definitely set after 3 and before 4 and before 2, you end up fighting a character called Nello Angelo, who I believe is strongly, I can't remember if it's confirmed or not, but he's strongly hinted to be Virgil in that specific form, and you end up defeating this character Nello Angelo after you fight him like 3 times. The third time you fight him, and he has an amulet which is blue, if I remember correctly, because it's been many years since I played it, and that is Virgil's amulet. So if he is alive, is this going to be some sort of weird flashback thing or not? Because the game is set just after 4, Devil May Cry 4, so it's completely canon in the timeline in that. So I'm not sure what they're going to be doing with that, but it's going to be interesting to see, and hopefully Capcom gives this the justice that it deserves, unlike some of the other games they've been doing, mainly their fighting games franchise, but check out my other videos for that. One final note that you're probably going to have on this as well is that it's actually going to have Lady, aka Mary, and Trish. Trish is apparently going to have an incredibly prominent role in this game, stated by the leaks, like she did in Devil May Cry 1. She was pretty much the cause of Devil May Cry 1. She's a pretty cool character, got super mad power. She was created by Mundus to kill Dante, or at least bring Dante to him for Mundus to kill him. Mundus is apparently going to be in the game. There's a character known by the Prince of Darkness, and that title is always held for Mundus within the Devil May Cry franchise. So you've got pretty much all the main characters that like have the fans standing behind them. You got your Dante, Virgil, Nero. Nero, depending on who you really speak to, that's going to tell who really likes him. I like him as a character. I wanted him to be in games like Marvel vs. Capcom. Never made it. We'll see what happens for the future of those games. You've got confirmed Trish. Lady hasn't been confirmed, but most likely, since Devil May Cry 3, where we see Lady, you see Trish and vice versa. And they were both in Devil May Cry 4 as well. And if it's setting off the back of Devil May Cry 4, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be in there with a different story, confirming Nero's background, which is going to be amazing. And that whole story as well is going to be pretty interesting, how they go with that to Devil May Cry 5. I'm really intrigued by who this new character, if they do have one in as a playable character, will be interesting, in the other supporting cast. The platform that this game will be on hasn't been stated. Now, Sony is paying for some of the development on the game, so that's leading to the leak stating that there'll be some sort of exclusivity. Now, whether that's just a timed exclusive, or if it's going to completely exclusive for the Sony platform PlayStation, or if it's just going to be exclusive DLC, because Sony has been getting quite a bit of exclusive DLC. We're not sure. We'll find out. But hopefully this information has gotten you hyped for a new Devil May Cry game. I know I'm super hyped for that. I cannot wait for that to happen. Anyway, I'll see you guys later on the next episode of Think Tank. Peace out, people.